Hi everyone, I'm Harley D, and today we're going to be making bass like this. And bass like this. Okay, so let's get straight into it then. So what I'm going to do is just play the track first and go over the, just show the basses that we're going to be having a look at today. But yeah, so what I've done is I have actually had a little bit of a break from YouTube the past couple of weeks because I've been recording a video for Patreon, which has turned out to be about 4 hours long, where I go through the whole process, showing you how I mixed, mastered, all the sound design, arrangement. So yeah, what I'm going to do today is just go through a couple basses in this and just show you how they're made. But if you want to see the whole video, head over to my Patreon. Shameless little plug. But yeah, here we go. I'll just give you a quick play here.
I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer.
So yeah, there's the track. And yeah, I've just skipped over to this bass here because I'm going to be showing you how I made this one here. And I'm also going to be going through how I make this sort of dry stabby sound. So yeah, we'll have a look at the layering in this video and how the mids are made in Serum and some of the processing. So let's get straight into it then. Let's zoom in a bit so we can actually see this. Boom, 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 boom. So yeah, the project is quite big and it's quite full now because the track's finished. But yeah, what this is essentially being made through a sub bass, a low mid that is being shaped around the mid, and a mid bass. And then there's like a little bit of reverb there. So I'll just play them together. So you can hear the different layers there. We've got the low mid, sub, and that reverb. What I'll do is take off the low mids and the subs and the reverb. We'll just listen to the... So that's just the mid bass on its own. And before we get into it, there's quite a bit of processing on the channel, so let's turn that off. And it will kind of give you a glimpse into how these sounds are being made. The bus processing is just to make it louder and do some side chaining. So if I'll turn that off after. Let me just show you this first. So that's just the Serum sound essentially. And I'll just turn off the bus processing because it's going through to a mids bus. So let's turn that off. So you can hear that the bus processing is only just making it a bit louder, saturating it a bit more and doing some side chaining. So we don't need to, I'll leave that on for now. It's not really doing a lot in terms of the sound and sculpting the sound. So let's have a look at this Serum patch then. Let's get into the first Serum patch for this mid bass. So what I'm doing here is using the spectral folder, the wavetables from that. That's how this sound is really being made. And the technique here is to pitch them down from a very low note. So if I get up the MIDI, we can see the MIDI is at D0. So technically that would be playing in the sub region, but I'm pitching it down another octave. So it's going below that now. And it's basically modulating itself because of that. So I've got the scale wavetable, and that's dropped down an octave. The wavetable position is set to 96. The pulse width modulation is right down here to 100%. So it's not technically being used, but yeah, that's one way you can get some different variations on this sound. I think I have got the phase. So the phase starts at 240. And I'm going to be using LFO4 to move the phase. So it basically, over this 1/4 notes, the phase will just move. And if I just go to the matrix to show you this, it's going up from LFO4 by 24. So what this is going to do is just to create little difference in the sound. So if I turn it off, let's bypass that. See how it's got a higher pitch there. So basically messing around with this subtly like this can create these different characteristics to the sound because it's changing the phase, where the phase starts at the sound and how the phase moves throughout the wavetable cycle. So the detune's not on, or you don't need to worry about that. The random phase is off, the level is all the way up. So I've got the sub oscillator, the second one selected. 50% is going through to the FX channel. So they're going to be processed together now. The master's all the way up. And that is pretty much everything at the moment. I'm pretty sure LFO3 isn't going to be used. No, that's bypass. So we can remove that. So let's have a look at this effects section. What I'm going to do though is take it off and just play now the oscillator with the that little phase movement. So it doesn't sound like a lot. And the first thing I would do is use the multiband compressor. So this is obviously going to start to bring the sound all together now. Got the threshold set at -5.3, the ratio's at 4:1, the attack's at 90, and the release is at 90, and I haven't turned the gain up. And if we just have a quick look here, 100 here, 100 here. So I haven't moved the bands either. So now I can hear some of that top end. So one of the things that happens when you pitch down these spectral wavetables is you lose a bit of the top end and a bit of the clarity in the sound. So trying to bring that back out is your sort of goal there and make the sound clear. And obviously it's not going to have any defined low frequencies, so you want to layer them up. But this is how you can get some really dry, gritty, intense sounds. There's loads of different ways you can take this at this point. Let's carry on. Let's put a little bit of this tube distortion on. I've got the drive at 50%, the mix is full. It's not doing a lot. If anything, it's just like subtly taming it, saturating it a bit. And then I'm going to put the CQ before all of that. So this is taking out frequencies in the key points that I want to clean up the sound. So I've got some set to about 3K there, which is this little point here. And I'm dropping that by 24. The Q set at 58. And if I just turn this on and off, so you can hear how it's like thinning it out and just cleaning it up a bit. I'm also taking a bit out in the low mids by the same amount, 24 at 210 Hertz. The Q is at 60. And then finally, I'm going to run it through a bandpass filter. And this is just to thicken it up because I'm pushing the drive up by like 61. But I'm just kind of like selecting a frequency band now to push up. And then I'll go further with my post-processing to really bring out some more frequencies. So you can hear we're back to a point where we need some top end again. So let's have a look at this post-processing. So first off, what I did is used OTT. So that really makes that mechanical sound. It really draws out the top end now. But what I've done here is I've turned the time down to 48 and I've turned the gain up to 19.1. The depth's at 100. This is a free plugin, so you can go grab that. This is by people that make Serum. So yeah, that's free. And then I would have put this chorus on. This is a chorus that I like to use. And I've got the feedback set to 0.56, the dry wet's at 15. So this just add a bit of stereo width into the sound. Yeah, there's the rest of the settings there. I've got the high pass filter on, so it's not affecting below 600 Hertz. So there's my settings on that. If you've got this chorus, you can just copy these settings here. If not, just use a chorus with a short feedback and a short dry wet with the high pass filter enabled. And then I would have gone to K-clip. So this is just to clip it off now. It's clipping 12 dB of peaks there. We're trying to run it quite loud. And then next up, I've got this EQ. So now running back, I can really sculpt out these frequencies that are going to be a bit too harsh before they go into the compressor and the chorus. These are the ones that are going to be hurting the ears. So as you can see, I've taken out like 6 dB between 1 to 3K and pushed up the frequencies around it. These are the ones that are trying to make the sound a bit more thicker and a bit more lively in the air band, sort of like 10K, 12K, 15K. Yeah, as you can see, they were quite spiky. So after that, after the clipper, I've gone a bit further. So this is where I get into the mix EQs now. So this is where I'd start with the post-processing essentially. And then everything after this is just like fitting it around with the sub and the low mids and the track, essentially the drums. So let's have a look. The first one is obviously to get rid of any frequencies below 280 Hertz, because essentially I'm going to have the sub there and I'm going to have a low mid sitting around there that I've made to move with this mid. So that's going to fit these frequency ranges. So we need to cut here. I'm not going to use a 96 dB octave slope. I'm going to use a 72 dB. I find that to be the cleanest way of doing it. I find like if you go up one brick wall, that it creates a little resonant peak, and I'm not too keen on that. But once again, I'm boosting up the frequencies, where I dipped at 1K before. So I'm trying to bring out the thickness of the mids. And then again, I'm just taming this top end. Obviously, I found once I got this, pushed the master a little bit more, got the everything rolling, that these frequencies still needed taming more. So after that, I've just rolled off the top end by 10 dB from 10K. And then I've decided to use Soothe. This is getting into the final later stages of the mix though, where I just want to use Soothe to tame resonances in that 3 to 4K range. But you can hear what it's doing. It's making the sound come from something that was really hollow and thin and tinny into more of a thicker mechanical sound. And then finally, what I'm doing is using the imager just to basically enhance the stereo width only up to 6K. Everything above 6K, I'm not enhancing. And that's essentially because I want all the top end to take over the stereo width in those frequencies. So I'd rather let this mid bass not be so stereo in those frequency ranges. And I've got the stereoize feature on there. So that's how that's being made. And I've just got a duplicate copy of it, Valhalla Room on. 100% mix, and it's a short decay. It's really not noticeable. It's just to add a bit of depth to the sound. Really just to add a little bit of depth underneath the sound, so it's not so dry, because it is a dry sound in nature. But yeah, that's what I've done with that. Now let's have a look at the sub. So for the sub that I've decided to do, because I knew I was going to layer up a low mid specifically for it, that I would shape around it. The sub's just like a block. It's all at D0. There's no modulation. When I say block, there's no modulation. It's just a straight note continuous through. So it's just literally a sine wave. The random phases off. I've got no processing to distort it or anything. The level's set, all up here. You can see where the level's set. It's just a sine wave. That's all it is. And it just rolls with the stabby nature of the mid. Then the key thing here is that I've layered this low mid in there. And now the low mid, I'll just show you the sub processing first though. There is nothing. It's just going into a sub bus that's being boosted with some soft clipping, so not a lot. So yeah, you can hear that low mid's what's creating the weight to the sound. If I take that out, it becomes hollow, and that's where you're not going to you're not going to be able to perceive it as well in the car on speakers that don't have sub, essentially down at like 38, 40 hertz. So this low mid is really important, and because I've not got it in the mid bass, which I wouldn't be able to get that because it was pitched out. It would have just been a bad low mid. So yeah, recreating it was important. Or you could have just done it with a sub, but I wanted to have control over this low mid to shape it. So what I've done is I've got a sine wave here, and it's being modulated by LFO1. So essentially, this is shaping the volume of it. As you can see, I have put the MIDI note of the mid to come in off grid. So what I've done for the low mid, because I've started it on grid on the MIDI note, you can see I've just like sort of like gone like this to like slope it in and then slope it back out. This is following the envelope, the volume envelope of the mid, essentially. Whereas a sub would just be this big block. I've got this low mid sort of like curving in and out of the sub. So it's creating a shape to the low end. And yeah, what I'm doing here is I'm getting a sine wave, dropping it down an octave. I think I must have that at D1. I'll go over that in a bit. Obviously, I've showed you this here. It's just sets at 0 upwards to, I'll show you that, 77. And then I've just gone into the distortion and just distorted it all with the tube distortion full. And then on the post-processing, not this one here, that's a mix EQ. You can see I've just selected these frequencies, essentially. They're the frequencies I'm choosing. You see about 290 hertz where I'm cutting off, and that's where I've cut the mid off. And yeah, I kind of just decided that I wanted this one to be most powerful and maybe not so much of this because this had tone that wasn't working with the mid itself. So I thought less of this 250 hertz, more around about 150 hertz for this mid. And yeah, that's how I do it. The next EQ after that is just really little subtle movements just to rebalance that extreme EQ that I've done. And yeah, that's how it comes together to make the full mid, full bass, sorry. And with that in mind, let's have a look at this other one over here. The other one I want to show you. Let's play that in context. So yeah, let's go over to this section here then. So yeah, I've got this other cool little one here. So the same thing again. So we don't need to go through the sub or the low mid because we're going to be having the same channels for this one here. We just got a different mid that's being laid up with it. And once again, you can see how the MIDI is the same. It's offbeat. It's not on grid. And yeah, I thought this was a cool one. It's just weird, and it's a good little stabby sound. I thought so. It'd be interesting to see how this one is made because it goes more into that, you know, pitching down a spectral wave or any wavetable by more than you normally would to create this extra modulation and weird frequency balance to the sound. So yeah, what I've done with this one is I've gone down by 2 octaves. So the MIDI note's at D0 again. I'm using the creeper. There we go. So from the spectral folder, I'm using the creeper wavetable, pitching it down 2 octaves, same sub from last time. And I'm using the same exact phase setting as last time. So it starts at 240. LFO4 has this shape, quarter note, off mode. It's make sure it stays on off. Don't leave it on trigger because that's part of how this works. And set it to 24. So yeah, what I'm doing here though is I'm turning the pulse width modulation up. So remember we didn't use it before. I just had it set there. I've set it to 29 this time. So let's have a little listen. Let's just take it off. So you can see how you can go from a gritty sound to this more tonal sort of stabby sound that repeats, which is pretty cool. You can get all these different modulations and weird variations with this pulse width modulation. The wavetable position set to 112 on here. The unison's on 2. So what I decided to do with this one is to bring some stereo width into the actual oscillator and detune it just a little bit. But what I've decided to do to really like control that stereo width is bring the width down on the global tab. So I brought it down to 23. If I left it at 100, it would just be a bit too wide. And then when it hits all the other processing, it's just going to get out of control, especially with the chorus that we put on it after, you know, on the post-processing. So that's what I do. And I do that from the start when I'm making these sounds. I'll go into this global tab and turn down the width if I'm going to be doing this any extreme sort of detuning on the, or even like just a lot of voices essentially, because when you've got 2 voices, you've got one left and right, and they are, if you've got one in the center, so if you add 3, it's a bit more controllable. You get more of a mono imprint. So yeah, that's why I do that. So I think that's pretty much everything because the post-processing will be exactly the same. And now this is something you can try yourself is, you know, create a patch, keep the processing on it and just duplicate it up, just keep going and developing that and finding all these different ways that you just go back into Serum or whatever synthesizer you're using to change. Instead of going back over your post-processing, just keep that the same. Just make a patch with the post-processing that works, you know, some saturation, compression, whatever, stereo effects, clipping. And then just keep it there and not have to worry about it too much. Just set it and go keep developing your patches. So yeah, as you can see, like all of the only thing I do change is the chorus amount essentially. So everything pretty much stays the same up to the mix EQs, which is here after the clipping. But I do change like the chorus amounts just to get a different sort of stereo imprint on the signal. So this one's got like a bit more chorus. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to go over. Let me just play that in context here. So yeah, it's quite a filled out track. And like I said, I have basically gone through making a 4-hour video documenting, you know, the whole start process, drum selection, drum processing, mixing, mastering, arrangement, all of the sound design for the pads, the effects, the bass and everything. So yeah, if you want to watch that video, get stuck into that, you can go over to my Patreon. I just put it up a couple of days ago. So yeah, it's a new one. And yeah, like I said, that's everything I wanted to go over. But if you've got any questions, shoot me a message down below. If you like the video, hit the like button. And if you want to see more like this, subscribe. I will be getting some more up this month. And yeah, if you want to support me, head over to Patreon.